Hello everyone, welcome to Shubhra Ranjan IAS Academy. Myself Neeraj Nachiketa, Faculty of Environment and Ecology. So you all have gone through the question paper of General Studies paper 3, GS3, and I am going to discuss today questions of environment. If you look at this year exam, in this paper, there are 5 questions in environment, and you all know that weightage of environment questions are now increasing in prelims exam also, and now even the main exam also there. So in this session we'll go through the approach, the right approach, how to handle such kind of questions and what is the nature of the question. We are going to discuss that. So if you look at the nature here, the one is that I always keep on saying that you are very clear in the fundamentals. Your fundamentals are very clear. But as you know, main exam is more on application based areas. So applications, and at the same time, you know that current affairs play a very important role. If you are aware with the newspaper like the Hindu or Indian Express, and you go through the topics of environment, like for example pollution aspect, groundwater, river pollution, deforestation, wildlife loss, biodiversity loss, at the same time climate change impacts, whatever the roles of countries worldwide in terms of fighting climate change. You know that UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and very important landmark agreement right now called Paris Agreement, where India is also a member country. All those dynamic areas, what you read and study in the newspaper, at the same time teacher teach in the classroom about UNFCCC, Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, NDCs. So you all know those kind of areas. So this time, if you take the general kind of a overview of 5 questions in environment and the difficulty level, they are not difficult. They are easy to moderate. One can easily write. Now, what UPSC is doing is that UPSC is looking into certain facts. That means you have to be again not only be aware of current dynamics of environment topics, burning topics of environment, but you have to also know about certain facts. Even prelims exam, facts are getting very important there. So we'll go through it. We'll take first in terms of the kind of look into the questions there. What I have done is that all these 5 questions from GS3 I have put on a slide, and I have written the exact question number, what is there. So if you look at here, the first question is question number 7, and this is 150 words which need to be written in 7 minutes time, and 10 marks question there. So if you look at here, what is carbon capture, utilization and storage, CCUS, right? What is the potential role of CCUS in tackling climate change? So linked with climate change area, this question has been asked. So if you look at very important crux here, that is a CCUS, carbon capture, right, utilization and storage, CCUS technology. So if you look at the first part is that you have to explain the technology, right? And second part is that how it is going to benefit, what is the role in fighting climate change. So if you take the in terms of this question here, so what we can take a general outline here. Since carbon capture, carbon sequestration, and all these topics are there in the news, so let's understand here. When you are starting your answer, the very first thing is that you have to, in the introduction, briefly talk about the problem of burning of fossil fuels and carbon dioxide gas emission, right? Because this technology is linked with what? Carbon capture, that is CO2 gas capture. So first thing was that you have to mention that in terms of air pollution, and you know carbon dioxide gas is a greenhouse gas, and there in terms of carbon dioxide gas emission coming from thermal power plants, right, big industries like you know cement, steel manufacturing, automobile, whatever. So you just mentioned that refinery also you can take that. So first you mentioned that rising problem of CO2 in the atmosphere, being a greenhouse gas, resulting into global warming, climate change, and coming from bigger industries, thermal power plants that you were mentioning. Then you come to the technology. You mentioned about the carbon capture and utilization and storage technology is not one technology, is a series of technology. There is a here series of technologies which work on three important things here. First is that when you look into this one, that is a direct capture. That means from chimney of the factory industry or thermal power plant, this CO2 gas which is captured and converted into and conversion into other forms, not letting it go to the atmosphere, right? Chemical conversion, maybe it may be converted to fossil fuel also there, that part could be there. Second thing is that it is a capture, right? And then through a pipeline, through the pipeline, there is a transport, right? Transport. You have to talk, initially you say that is a series of technologies, but when it comes to body of the answer, initially in the introduction you have introduced that is a series of technology to take the CO2 and convert to form. Another thing is that when you look at body of the answer, then you explain the technology, mention what the technology is all about. So capture, pipeline, transport, and then under the ground, like underground storage. Underground storage, and then conversion into some other form, modified into some other forms. Particularly if you look at this type of technologies can be utilized, like sometime underground, if you look at under the earth, like we can have saline formation, like just like a brine or salt formation where it can be absorbed and converted to some other form, or sometime maybe rocks, some kind of impermeable or permeable rocks, like capture can be done in that case, that can be part of it. Even scientists are trying to use the abandoned mines, like sometimes coal mines and abandoned mines, which can be another area where this kind of a CO2 can be put there and utilized in some other forms. Now this is where you have to write about the technology, and which is there in the news, current affair based kind of question there. Then what are you writing there? Now what is the next thing here? So when you go to the next thing here, so next thing you are writing about potential role in fighting climate change. So what is the potential role in fighting climate change, in tackling the problem of climate change? So it's a very simple way you can mention that the amount of CO2 going to the atmosphere that gets captured and utilized here. So potential role here means that is it will not let increase in carbon dioxide emission, carbon dioxide gas emission, and also in terms of increase of concentration of concentration of CO2 gas in the atmosphere, which is now causing the problem of the part of you all know that causing the problem of right now in terms of global warming. Then also at the same time, when potential role we are talking about, another thing is what when it get converted, chemical conversion into other forms which can be utilized, which can be further can be utilized, like if you look at it can be used in terms of fuel also, utilized as a fuel. So that means it in one way it can also help in recycling the part. But you have to just also just very briefly, not very too much of, briefly mention some type of limitations here. So although it has a great role in tackling the problem of climate change, some limitations like, advanced technologies, a very, very advanced level of technologies. But remember, students, that you have to write within 150 word. Advanced technology, you require lot of expenditure, high cost is required. But there's just 2-3 words you are mentioning there. But what is very important is that in coming years, this will become a feasible option to fight climate change there. And then with with a positive note, way forward, you can mention that this emerging technology, it can be a great boon in terms of helping us fight climate change and help even India to look into the problems coming from such kind of sources of emissions, particularly bigger sources, larger sources of emission. That also you can mention in the benefit part of it, where the more amount of CO2 generated can be utilized or converted and utilized in some form, or storage, so that it does not go to atmosphere, cause warming. So it is a question, if somebody has read about it properly, know about the things, will be able to write the answer. Now let's moving on to the next question here. Question number 8, again 150 words. Seawater intrusion in the coastal aquifers. See, what is here? Coastal aquifers. That is a keyword, and seawater, an intrusion word has been used, is a major concern in India. Now is a question regarding Indian context, right? In India it is saying that, what are the causes? Now see here, what are the causes of seawater intrusion and the remedial measures to combat this hazard. The word is here hazard, that means it is causing problem, right? So hazard here, and which has to be answered. So if you look at what is the first thing, seawater intrusion. What is second keyword is that in terms of coastal areas, coastal aquifers, and what is third thing here? Cause. What is fourth thing here? Remedies, and then mentioning about the part of a solution. So if you look at this question here, this question, when you are starting the answer, introduction part, in the introduction part you have to talk about that climate change impact. That means you can mention that because of the global warming climate change impacts, and one of the very big impact is the sea level rise. Sea level rise, SLR. That is what is happening there, sea level rise, and this sea level rise is resulting into getting coastal areas flooded. So just in sentence format you will write that this is where the problem which is now occurring there, that we need to first mention that this global warming climate change and sea level rise which is happening there, that is submerging the coastal areas, that is leading to the coastal submergence. So when we are talking about coastal submergence, or what we say flooding here, so what will happen? The sea water, salt water, so that is result into intrusion in the coastal area. So when the water from the sea get intruded, right, on the land side, right, so what will happen? There will be seepage. You mentioned that the seepage into the groundwater. In the coastal areas will also have groundwater aquifers. So those groundwater aquifers, that will be this water will get seepage into that one, go into that one coastal areas. And you can even mention that it's not only the sea level rise, but even you can mention about that extreme weather event. What is another thing here? You can also mention here that climate change impact was sea level rise. Another could be what? Extreme weather events. That means the weather event which is happening like cyclone, right? For example, you can even write here extreme weather event, and you can give one very good example here, because the question is in the perspective of India. So you have to write in terms of India aspect there. So here cyclone, tropical cyclone, let's say Bay of Bengal, Sundarban Delta, mangrove forest, Sundarban Delta, or let's say if we talk about Arabian Sea side, Gujarat and all this, we have a mangrove areas and all this. And what is happening there? Although mangrove protect the coastline from such kind of extreme weather event like cyclone, but water, let's say wherever mangroves are not there, wherever such kind of green defense shield is not there, and the water get inside, so that will again cause the intrusion there. So one intrusion we are talking about is sea level rise. right? Melting of polar ice and glaciers and the rise of sea level and even thermal expansion, warming of the ocean water. Second thing you're talking about, that extreme weather event where the storm, high tide or cyclones coming to the coastal areas will also cause submergence and then intrusion of seawater into groundwater. So first thing of your question, you are writing about the problem. That means you are now coming to this part. Then as you write in your introduction part, that seawater, this is the thing here which is now you're talking about that because of such climate change impacts and such kind of weather events and all this sea level rise, this intrusion is getting more and more the country. And then you can give example here, like for example, you can even mention the example. A very good example what you can talk about, as I just mentioned there, Sundarbans is now very much impacted. Even Lakshadweep, very good example could be Lakshadweep Island, where the fisheries have been impacted. Even forget about Lakshadweep and all, our coastal areas is Bay of Bengal side, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, right? There is getting problem there. Even Chilika Lagoon, that is getting the problem there. So just give certain examples here, mention that. Then come to what in the body of the answer, when you come to the body of the answer. So what is the body of the answer is asking? Causes. Okay, what are the causes of it? So here what you can do, since 150 words, you cannot write in paragraphs there. You have started with the introduction, 3-4 sentences. Now you can easily, with starting sentence or a small paragraph, switch over to pointers. You write point wise. So here causes, you have said that this kind of intrusion going to groundwater aquifers will increase the salinity. And this increase in salinity, right, what I mentioned cause and all this one there, can affect the problem there. So your cause part comes here. Now you mention here problems, the impacts here. So what impact will be here? So increase in salinity, and that is going to impact the wetlands there. So use such kind of words there, because then only the examiner know that you are talking about environmental aspect. The first thing is the environmental aspect, ecological aspect. So you are writing here the increase of salinity, right, in the groundwater. So that will again in terms of the this water, which will be problem creating there in that area there. So this intrusion may have, one is the surface problem. What is surface problem? Direct problem onto the wetlands. The wetlands which are found like areas such as like mangroves and all things. Even the their biodiversity, whatever the biodiversity is there, they may not be able to survive such kind of high level of salinity. And again this groundwater which get the high level of salt content, that will again the water which is used. Now you can also write about economic thing here, like socio-economic impact. One is the ecological impact and environmental impact. Second, you are writing about socio-economic impacts. Now socio-economic impacts here, like this groundwater which may be used for some kind of a work, like particularly maybe agriculture or some other kind of a problem there, that can be a big challenge for the people or the community who live in the coastal areas. Let's say such kind of they will not be able to get proper kind of groundwater, because sometimes the groundwater, if they get a high level of salinity, so even the purification and other technologies to remove salt will be required in such kind of areas, so that the people will be able to survive with those kind of clean water there. So again this you can write about that one, that impact, what the question says, that what are the impacts there, causes of the intrusion and the remedial measure. So you can start, even though impact what is not there, problems have not been mentioned, but just mention briefly that what social economic impact can be there because of such kind of intrusion. Now what comes in the body of the answer? Remedial measures. You will be writing about the remedial measures in the same part of the remedial measures, the remedies. So if you look at remedies here, again the suggestion. So one of the very important thing is that sea level rise, global warming, because of such kind of melting and all this, you cannot think of the long term kind of thing. You have to immediately think of the problem to solve. So here first thing is that this one, nature based solution. You will be writing here NBS, nature based solution. है ना, यहाँ पर आप नेचर बेस्ड सोल्यूशन के बारे में बात करेंगे. तो नेचर बेस्ड सोल्यूशन क्या है? दैट मीन्स हियर एफॉरेस्टेशन, राइट, plantation of those kind of trees or let's say mangroves, which can prevent such kind of a sea water after the sea level rise to get inside the land side here. So that is again a kind of barrier, right? Again, what can be nature-based solution? Even here, this was conservation of wetlands, important coastal wetland like mangroves and all this. That again, which can again be protected from such kind of hazard and even other disasters, right? Which is being caused because of climate change impacts. So that you can write conservation of wetlands there in that areas. Then what you can say, and these are when talk of forest and afforestation, they act like a wall to prevent the sea water getting inside. Then what you can write here, the artificial way, like artificial measures. What could be artificial measures? That is, let's say, construction of walls, right? Kind of walls and the sea walls, like in Japan and all, they create tsunami wall or some kind of such kind of wall. Similar type of thing, we can also think of creating those kind of walls. See, if best solution is a nature-based solution, where we have a kind of a trees and plantation and mangroves and all, so they will not be uprooted. They will be able to act like a wall. But let's say if it is not possible in certain areas, then we can build such kind of construction kind of system, or we can place such kind of barriers, right? Barriers for not letting the water get inside the land here, right? One is a natural barrier, we are talking about plants and trees and all, but second barrier we are talking about artificial way, man-made kind of thing there. So that water, because the main thing is what, if we don't want the problem to create, so we need to first look into the kind of a blocking those kind of flow of water. Another thing could be what, some kind of a engineering aspect, particularly geoengineering, where such kind of sea level water which is getting inside affecting agriculture, aquaculture can be channelized. So another thing could be what, some kind of geoengineering or civil aspect, we can say civil engineering aspect there. By what will happen there? That means there's channels which allow that water to go, just like drainage. So here channels, we can create artificial channels, water channels, right? Water channel there, and or such kind of a man-made kind of a such kind of design, drainage design, that water does not stay there for a long time. Water gets flow to some other location, does not stay stagnant. What is the problem there? When the water gets intruded and stays for a long time, then the problem creates there. So that you have to apply in that case, that the design and all. And see, all these answers don't require that you have read textbooks or something of that. You have the particular knowledge, that environmental knowledge, you know that. Only you have to write in a particular form so that you are able to mention the points there in your answer writing. And then finally you can conclude your answer. You can write about your conclusion in the answer that since we have to look, because India has got, even in that part, India has got, right, 7516 kilometer long coastline, and now the coastal developments in terms of government policy program and even part of human population growth. So it becomes very, very imperative that government should look into this kind of solutions and remedies with the programs and policies, so that this coastal sea water intrusion can be prevented. ऐसा आप लिख के इसको एंड कर सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर ये चीज़ है कि यहाँ पर जैसे गवर्नमेंट का जो इनिशिएटिव्स है, अब जैसे कि गवर्नमेंट ने अभी अगर आप बात करें तो इसमें आप कुछ इनिशिएटिव्स के बारे में बता सकते हैं, जैसे कि फॉर एग्जांपल मिस्टी, MISHTI, दैट इज फॉर रीजनरेशन ऑफ मैंग्रोव्स, प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ मैंग्रोव्स इन द एरिया. यही चीज़ IUCN के द्वारा, इंटरनेशनल यूनियन फॉर कंजर्वेशन के द्वारा, देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड मैंग्रोव फॉर फ्यूचर प्रोग्राम, MFF. India is also participating country in this program, Mangroves for Future program. So that you can mention here, right? So that one you mention the MISTI program, right? Amrit program and all this one, when you write there, by that way we can create nature-based kind of barriers for not letting this kind of sea water get inside. So some kind of a government initiative you can mention that. All right. So we'll now move to the next question here. That we'll go to the next question, that is examine the factors, that is question number 13. Now 250 words, 250 words question now, 15 marks question. Examine the factors responsible, see, examine the factors, right, responsible for depletion of groundwater, depleting groundwater in India. Again, Indian context. You'll see all these questions are from Indian context. This time, all 5 questions have been asked from Indian context there. In India, now what are the steps, see us, what are the steps taken by the government to mitigate such kind of depletion of groundwater? You know that even last year, there was a question on groundwater. The technological and part of the environmental aspect was missed together. So it was expected that groundwater again can be asked. Groundwater question has been asked in prelims exam also there. So it is one of the recurrent topic in the examination. तो यहाँ पर ये चीज़ को ध्यान रखना है कि ग्राउंड वाटर पे लगातार कुछ ना कुछ क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं, प्रीलिम्स में भी आ रहे हैं, मेंस में भी आ रहे हैं. अब यहाँ पर जो चीज़ें हैं, अगर आप यहाँ देखो आप, तो यहाँ जो की वर्ड्स यही है कि पहला तो ये डिप्लीशन ऑफ ग्राउंड वाटर के बारे में बात हो रहा है, राइट. तो पहला चीज़ यहाँ डिप्लीशन की बात हो रही है, ठीक है. दूसरा यहाँ कहा जा रहा है फैक्टर्स क्या है, व्हाट आर द फैक्टर्स दैट कॉज दिस काइंड ऑफ लॉस देयर, वो चीज़ कहा जा रहा है. और तीसरा ये चीज़ कहा जा रहा है कि क्या क्या गवर्नमेंट स्टेप्स है. सी वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, it has clearly highlighted the government. Right? You have to understand the question very well. Government steps are taken there. Steps to mitigate those kind of problem which is causing the loss of groundwater, depletion of groundwater. Even the previous question, coastal erosion and coastal intrusion of seawater, again it is talking about coastal areas groundwater aquifers. तो अगर देखा जाए तो ग्राउंड वाटर पे 2 क्वेश्चन आ गए. एक नॉर्मल फ्रेश वाटर की सोर्सेज बात हो रही है और दूसरा जो कोस्टल एरिया पे बात हो रही है ना. तो ये चीज़ वहाँ 15 मार्क्स का है. तो नाउ इफ यू सी हियर इन दिस काइंड ऑफ पार्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन हियर, सो व्हाट इज द थिंग हियर, लेट्स से व्हेन यू लुक एट इंट्रोडक्शन हियर, तो इन द इंट्रोडक्शन just state here, right, certain facts, right, that growing demand of right usable water, particularly the fresh water and the groundwater, that is rising drastically, right, and you know that particular cities there, cities and urban areas, more than, you write more than 70%, right, 70% of groundwater extraction, right. In the same, you can write about the introduction part of that, this extraction, whatever the extractions are there, right, this extraction here. So what you can mention here, that it is said here, Niti Ayog, right, you mentioned about the Niti Ayog report. It is saying that 21 cities in India, right, and the loss of groundwater going to impact the rapid use of groundwater, right, too much of extraction of groundwater, right, that is going to impact 100 million people living in 21 cities in our country, in India. Then what you can write finally here, you can also write that there was a report, central groundwater, there was a report, central groundwater, current affairs, you have to mention that, quality report 2024, highlighted that. What highlighted that? Quality of the groundwater. You know that now groundwater is polluted with arsenic, fluoride, even uranium has been found, other heavy metals like lead, cadmium, all these are there. So here this one is saying that more than, right, 70% again here pollution of groundwater. That groundwater is now getting polluted with such kind of heavy metal and all those kind of thing here. And when you are talking about extraction of groundwater, mention that India being a developing country, maximum water is used for irrigation purpose, like hand pump or well by which water is extracted. So when you are writing above there, you can mention that in India, if you look at primary use of water, that is irrigation, and the groundwater extraction for irrigation is also higher. Then comes to other uses like domestic use or industrial use, that you will be writing there. So that is a way you can start with a very good introduction. And then what you can do here, next part when it comes to body of the answer, when you are coming to the body of the answer, right? So factors, when you are talking factors here, right? The factors here, so when you are talking that this exploitation of water and all this one, the factors you will be writing point wise, you can bring out number of factors. One is the population growth, right? Second thing is what? Migration of the people to urban areas, rapid urbanization, right? So that is again the demand of water has increased there. Then again here, loss of fresh water sources, let's say pollution, river pollution, lake pollution, that surface water. So surface water, let's say rivers, lakes and other wetlands and all, again they are getting the polluted, they cannot be easily used for any kind of drinking purpose or application there. Then what you can say, even you can mention about deforestation part. आप डिफॉरेस्टेशन के बारे में बात कर सकते हैं कि जिस तरह से रैपिड ट्रीज का रिमूवल हो रहा है तो ग्राउंड वाटर भी लॉस हो रहा है उसमें, क्योंकि ट्रीज एंड प्लांट्स क्या करता है, वाटर को रिटेन रखता है. अब वाटर रिटेन नहीं हो रहा है. इवन इसमें एक फैक्टर आप क्या लिख सकते हो, वेटलैंड लॉस. जो वेटलैंड्स का जो है, वी आर ड्रेनिंग द वेटलैंड्स, वी आर कन्वर्टिंग वेटलैंड्स इनटू सम अदर यूज, दैट आल्सो गेटिंग अफेक्टेड देयर. तो दैट पार्ट यू कैन हाईलाइट हियर in this part of. So when you look at the question here, see here, what is saying here, depleting the, examine the factors that are responsible for it, right? And what are the steps taken by जब यहाँ factors में ये बात को highlight करना है कि irrigation के लिए पानी ज़्यादा चाहिए तो हम ज़्यादा पानी वहाँ पर extract करते हैं ground waters के लिए, तो वो factor वो भी आपको body of the answer में mention करना है. फिर यहाँ क्या है कि what government has taken the steps to mitigate, and now government of mitigation steps if you look at, तो गवर्नमेंट का जब हम मिटिगेशन की बात हम करते हैं तो गवर्नमेंट का जो मिटिगेशन का स्टेप्स है, तो नाउ इन द बॉडी ऑफ द आंसर यू आर गोइंग टू द मिटिगेशन पार्ट ऑफ इट. तो यू नो दैट यहां आप मेंशन कर सकते हो अटल भूजल योजना. दिस इज अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट गवर्नमेंट स्कीम, अटल भूजल योजना. That is in terms of recharge of the groundwater, right? At the same time, in terms of, so here, in terms of providing that groundwater, right? Then particular one is the helping to recharge such groundwater, but plantation of trees and aquifers and wetland recharge, wetlands and all these things are. But again, the bhujal groundwater, which can be clean, safe drinking water to the people, to a larger region. In the same thing, you know that Jal Jeevan Mission, Jal Jeevan Mission, Haryali Mission, Jal Jeevan Mission. What is here? Again, providing the safe, clean drinking water through tap water, supplying to the household and everything there. Even the government is now looking for other kind of alternatives, like or technological intervention. Even you can mention that technological kind of intervention by the government, so that this over extraction of groundwater is better. What we can utilize other water, like for example, which was the part of the last year question also there, like conversion here, conversion of grey water, wastewater. Right now, this technology exists there, wastewater into drinking water, potable drinking water, so that the people's dependence on groundwater can be minimized. Those kind of wastewater, grey water, what we generate in our household and other place, can be converted into that. Even for irrigation here, this wastewater even can be filtered, purified, and can be used in irrigation purpose there. There in the agriculture part with the irrigation, we can go for such kind of a intervention there. So recycling, that is something called recycling of that. And today we have such kind of technologies which can recycle of such wastewater can be done for the purpose of in terms of we can use such kind of a thing here, wastewater there. So wastewater in terms of application part, we can work on that one, wastewater, right? So that again, that could be another way we can like think of that, technological interventions and all which government is doing there. Then again, you know that in terms of plantation, like here green belt, that is afforestation. Government has got number of Nagar Van Yojana, like their Haryali mission, all those kind of missions you can write here, right? Where trees and all which are very, very important to provide us not only the pure air, oxygen, even capture carbon dioxide, but also help in protecting from disasters, right? And also in terms of recharging the groundwater and all can be done there. So that part you can write about that, right? Protection of wetlands, you can also write about protection of wetlands, because wetlands are like a sponge. They are sponge. They keep the water which seeps to the groundwater. How happens there? At the same time, wetlands are also helpful in recycling the waste material. They are called kidneys of the earth. So that part you can mention, protection of wetlands here. So, and write the government aspect of that. That way the mitigation part can be mentioned in the answer there. Because this is 250 words, याद रखना है. ये 250 वर्ड का है, 250 वर्ड्स का है. आप उसमें आपके पास पॉसिबिलिटी है कि आप कई सारे पॉइंट्स को लिख सकते हैं, है ना, उसको लिख सकते हैं वहाँ पर. तो वो चीज़ को वहाँ रखना है. और लास्ट में क्या करना है, कंक्लूजन. Conclusion should not be very lengthy. Many times people write very lengthy conclusion. No, just way forward suggestion that government is already doing that, but positive note, participatory approach, community participation. तो आप इसमें conclusion में ये लिख सकते हो कि that one thing which you can write there as a way forward and conclusion that this today, for solving any environmental problem, we will need participatory approach. Approach of this type is required in every aspect. यहाँ पर क्या है ना, भागीदारिता कि सहयोग, और लोकल लोगों का इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है, तो लोकल लोगों का सहयोग बहुत चाहिए. यहाँ पर क्या है, कम्युनिटी पार्टिसिपेशन, लोकल कम्युनिटीज पार्टिसिपेशन. ये आप ब्रीफली मेंशन कर सकते हो कंक्लूजन पार्ट में, वे फॉरवर्ड. आप लिख सकते हो कि ये जो लोगों को अवेयर करना, दैट इज अ पब्लिक अवेयरनेस काइंड ऑफ थिंग देयर, राइट? अवेयरनेस एस्पेक्ट ऑफ दिस, that you can mention that the people have to get the awareness in terms of that, this look how you have to do that. Then again, when you are talking participation, community participation, that can participate in Atal Bhujal Yojana, then Jal Jeevan Mission of the Ministry of Water and River Regeneration. तो वो जल जीवन मंत्रालय का जो काम है, तो वहाँ पर पब्लिक अवेयरनेस का बहुत जरूरी है. एंड देन आप इसको ये लिख सकते हो कि गवर्नमेंट इज ऑलरेडी प्रोवाइडिंग द फंड, सो ग्रासरूट काइंड ऑफ थिंग देयर, right? Grassroots kind of a empowerment, so that whatever they have the resources, they use in a better way, optimal use of resources, better use of resources, and in terms of helping with the government in terms of solving the crisis or problems. That कुछ soft tone पे आप कुछ positive तौर पे आप इसको आंसर को एंड कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, let's go to the next question here. Question number 17, again 250 words. So if you look at this question here, question is this one, that mineral resources are fundamental to the country's economy. So here mineral resources, the key word is mineral resources. It's talking about fundamental to economy of the country. And then talking exploitation, that means exploited by mining. The very key word is here mining. mining of minerals. Now what is saying? Why? The question is that why is mining considered environmental hazard? Direct question. Why mining is environmental hazard? One can easily write answer. इसमें आप आसानी से आंसर लिख सकते हैं, है ना? फिर क्या है इसके दूसरा पार्ट? एक्सप्लेन द रेमेडियल मेजर. सी ऑल द टाइम आस्किंग सजेशन, सोल्यूशन. रेमेडियल मेजर्स रिक्वायर्ड टू रिड्यूस द इन्वायरमेंटल हजार्ड्स ड्यू टू माइनिंग. मतलब जो हजार्ड ड्यू टू माइनिंग हो रहा है उसके हम कैसे क्या रेमेडीज हो सकता है. 250 वर्ड्स 15 मार्क्स. लेट्स लुक एट हियर. तो जब आप स्टार्ट करेंगे आंसर, द इंट्रोडक्शन पार्ट ऑफ इट, इसमें यह बताना है कि वर्ल्ड वाइड एंड इंडिया से माइनिंग of minerals is a very important part of the economic sector, right? Because these minerals like iron ore, right, bauxite, you name few minerals there, manganese, right, all these minerals. And you can mention the states like if you look at the states like Jharkhand, you can give some mineral rich state, Odisha. Then you know that Goa is again rich, and then Karnataka, and all these kind of state which are rich in mineral rich areas, and the mining happens there, which you have read in geography. You can connect with the geographical aspect here in this question. यहाँ पे geographical aspect आ जाता है कि जब मिनरल की बात करते हैं तो इंडिया में बहुत सारे मिनरल्स डिपॉजिट्स हैं, है ना, और उसके सारे एक्सट्रैक्शन होते हैं, उसकी माइनिंग होती है. और माइनिंग में आप यहाँ बताओ कि जब हम माइनिंग करते हैं तो टू टाइप्स के माइनिंग होते हैं. एक जो होता है जो नॉर्मली होता है अंडरग्राउंड माइनिंग होता है, वहाँ पर अंडरग्राउंड माइनिंग इज देयर. एंड सेकेंड इज कॉल्ड हियर ओपन कास्ट, जो कि वी रिमूव लेयर बाय लेयर एंड देन गो फॉर दिस वन. तो मोस्टली यू विल फाइंड अंडरग्राउंड माइनिंग इज देयर. अ ब्रीफ इंट्रोडक्शन अबाउट दैट वन, एंड देन इन द इंट्रोडक्शन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट कि माइनिंग इज अ काइंड ऑफ एक्टिविटी which cause pollution. So mining cause pollution. So it cause pollution of air, because air is the one thing, dust and all this kind of which goes in the air, right, which affect the visibility, everything. Second, you mentioned about water, surface water, let's say lake or river or stream get highly polluted with toxic metals and the residues there. Not only that one, it also affect the groundwater. So when you say water, the one is the surface water which get polluted in the mining area, and second what calls here groundwater, which get also polluted with such kind of metals seepage there. And what is another thing here? Noise pollution. It also causes the noise pollution there, and also land get degraded, land get polluted with the dump yard dumping of all such kind of extracted ores on the land side. So here just briefly mention that, and then now you see that what is the question saying that. Question is, why is mining considered environmental hazard? Right? Considered environmental hazard. So now what do you come across? Now when you come to the body of the answer, now when you are coming to the body of the answer, so you are now talking about the hazard. Body of the answer here, like environmental hazard. You are now right about those, why it is considered hazard. So what is here? What impacts it has, like pollution. So what will happen? If it is a hazard, so you are talking about impacts of the mining, right? And here you will say that what happened? The first thing, deforestation. We all know that deforestation, and that lead to habitat loss, biodiversity and ecological impact will be the habitat loss. Let's the forest which is removed. Along with the forest, the wildlife of the forest will also be lost, and not only the wildlife of the forest, but also whatever the important resources are there, timber and non-timber, they are also got lost. So here habitat loss. At the same time, when the deforestation happens, so not only we are talking about wildlife and biodiversity loss, right, impact, but it also has a economic impact, economic loss. Let's say particular tribal people, there are sometimes primitive tribes, sometimes forest dwellers. आपको पता है उड़ीसा झारखंड ऐसे जो राज्य हैं, जो वहाँ के जो ट्राइब्स होते हैं, जो आदिवासी होते हैं, जनजाति होते हैं, जो निर्भर होते हैं फॉरेस्ट पे, है ना, फॉरेस्ट के प्रोड्यूस पे डिपेंड करते हैं. तो हियर द इकोनॉमिक लॉस हियर, फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस वो भी खत्म हो जाता है, बिकॉज उस एरिया में माइनिंग की जा रही है. इसमें ओडिशा का बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल दे सकते हो आप, एंड यू कैन गिव वेरी गुड एग्जाम्पल नियमगिरी हिल्स, लेट्स से bauxite mining, Niyamgiri hills, where the bauxite mining of Vedanta company, you know, Vedanta company, where the bauxite mining is being carrying on there. Even you can give the example Kudremukha, that is in Karnataka, Kudremukha, right? So there again you can give example from the state of Karnataka also there. One is eastern side, another is western side. You can give example of North Goa, South Goa, the mining of manganese ore, iron ore. You can give the example. The habitat loss, economic loss, forest produce, particularly the communities which depend on the forest, their loss is there, right? That part. Then what you will write here, then we have the pollution. Let's say when you have a noise pollution, not only human, see, when you talk human, not only human, it is hazard, but also birds and other animals, they will migrate from such area because of the excessive noise. Why noise is there? Blasting, drilling, all the dynamite were used there. Even such mining area, whatever is taken out, there are machineries are there which it takes out from the underground. And then again there are, we'll have truck and vehicles which will carry those kind of ores. है ना? तो वहाँ लगातार क्या होता है, मूवमेंट होता रहता है ना, जो भी उसके मिनरल वहाँ निकल रहे हैं उसको निकालने में जो नॉइज होता है और साथ साथ में उसको ले जाने में जो गाड़ियाँ होते हैं उसके वहाँ पर प्रदूषण होते हैं, नॉइज पोल्यूशन. देन व्हाट कम्स हियर व्हेन द यू आर टॉकिंग एयर, तो अगेन एयर पोल्यूशन का दो चीज यहाँ पर है. एक है विजिबिलिटी, हेज, फॉर्मेशन ऑफ हेज, poor visibility in that kind of area, right? It is all suspended in the air, right? और दूसरा क्या है, health of the humans that get impacted very badly, the health issues there, right? It causes the health issues there, that part is there. Then again, land pollution. So what will happen there? Agriculture, the prime occupation of the people, let's say agriculture land, that is gone. They will not be able to do crop and everything there. That will be the part of, so here this agriculture loss will be there. Groundwater is polluted, they cannot be drink, can be consumed also there. At the same time here, socio-economic impact we will be talking about, loss of livelihood of the people there, right? Agriculture I have already mentioned, but let's say aquaculture and other kind of occupation, they will get impacted in such kind of area there, वो loss हो जाएगा वहाँ पर. तो वो hazard को बताना है, hazard है ना, उसका जो इम्पैक्ट है, क्योंकि आप देखो क्वेश्चन में ये बहुत क्लियरली मेंशन किया, बहुत क्या मेंशन किया जा रहा है, व्हाई इज माइनिंग कंसिडर्ड एन इमोरल हैजर्ड, तो आपको उसके इम्पैक्ट के बारे में बताना है, ठीक है, वो सारी चीजें. तो ये बॉडी ऑफ द आंसर का ये पार्ट आएगा. फिर क्या है यहाँ पर, नेक्स्ट आप क्या लिखोगे, नेक्स्ट आप लिखोगे रेमेडियल मेजर्स. अब ये जो क्वेश्चन है बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, राइट? ये इसलिए इंटरेस्टिंग है कि इंस्टेड ऑफ आस्किंग डायरेक्ट अबाउट EIA, इन्वायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट, है ना, जो कि इसमें ऐसा हो सकता था डायरेक्ट यूपीएससी क्वेश्चन पूछ सकता था कि राइट अबाउट EIA ऑफ माइनिंग ऑफ मिनरल्स. तो उन्होंने EIA ऑफ माइनिंग मिनरल डायरेक्ट नहीं बोल के सीधा क्या किया, सीधा घुमा के पूछा. तो यहाँ पर क्या है, फर्स्ट थिंग, जब भी कोई माइनिंग प्रोजेक्ट होता है, ये आपको बॉडी ऑफ द आंसर में आएगा, मिनरल माइनिंग ऑफ मिनरल्स, द फर्स्ट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज द EIA study, environmental impact assessment studies, that need to be done. Then the entire environmental clearance, where the government give the clearance based on the EIA study and public hearing, discussion, everything. तो यहाँ पर आप मेंशन कर सकते हो कि रिसेंट टाइम जो गवर्नमेंट ने अमेंड किया है EIA रूल्स 2020, तो उसके आप पॉजिटिव साइड भी बता सकते हैं, नेगेटिव बता सकते हैं. कि पहला ये, क्योंकि रेमेडियल मेजर की बात हो रही है, तो आप वहां पर नेगेटिव नहीं बता सकते, पॉजिटिव बताना होगा. तो वहां पॉजिटिव के तौर पे आप क्या बताएंगे, तो आप बताएंगे कि यहाँ पर जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट होता है, कोई भी माइनिंग हो, चाहे वो माइनर मिनरल हो या बिगर मिनरल्स हो, तो सबसे पहला इंपॉर्टेंट चीज होता है EIA स्टडी करना, द प्रॉपर EIA स्टडी एंड द रिपोर्ट्स, द फाइंडिंग, एंड देन बेस्ड ऑन EIA व्हाट कम्स वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, environmental management. Environmental compliance is one thing, and the monitoring of that part of the compliance. Second is environmental management plan, EMP, management plan for mining project. EMP is required where we look out. इसमें क्या होता है, जब हम EIA स्टडी करते हैं तो हम पूरे ऑल्टरनेटिव्स को देखते हैं, क्या क्या विकल्प है, क्या क्या चीज़ें हैं जहां हम उसको अप्लाई कर सकते हैं, उसके मैनेजमेंट को कैसे करें कि हम क्या हो कि हम एयर पोल्यूशन कम करें, वाटर पोल्यूशन कम हो. So there the interventions or kind of efforts taken to reduce such impacts and the mitigate there, looking for alternatives. So here in terms of mitigation to reduce the impacts, that is clearly mentioned in the EIA study, which the mining company has to follow. Mining company requires to follow that. Mitigation is required there in terms of that. And again the proper technological intervention. What type of technologies which can be used to reduce the pollution there. Another thing could be what remedial measure, planting of trees. आपको पता है कि इसमें क्या करते हैं remedial measure में, afforestation, ग्रीनिंग की जाती है आसपास के एरिया में, राइट, प्लांटेशन ऑफ ट्रीज वगैरह बनाए जाते हैं, उससे बहुत सारा लाभ होता है. इट हैज वन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, एयर, साउंड, नॉइज, ऑल थिंग्स कैन बी द प्लांटेशन around that area that is done there. And again once the mining is done, again we can regenerate, what something called regeneration of that area. So after mining, what is very very important, remedial could be there, regeneration part. So we can look into regeneration, and today it is possible, regeneration of forest. After mining is completed, that is the completion of part of it there. We can create that area into some other use, some better use, some cleaner use, some kind of something that we can do that. So that will again the people will not suffer for a long term impact, that will minimize there. So ये क्वेश्चन अगर देखा जाए तो ये क्वेश्चन बहुत आसान क्वेश्चन है, इसमें ज़्यादा डिफिकल्टी नहीं है ना. और EIA को मेंशन करना बहुत जरूरी है, इसमें EIA के बारे में थोड़ा बहुत लिखना भी है, बताना भी है कि हम उसमें इन्वाटर क्लियरेंस के लिए करते हैं, उसके लिए रूल्स हैं इंडिया में, और जो भी ऐसे माइनिंग प्रोजेक्ट है उनको करना पड़ता है, उसमें स्क्रीनिंग, स्कोपिंग, पब्लिक हियरिंग, ऑल दिस पार्ट को भी आप यू कैन मेंशन पॉइंट वाइज में बता सकते हो आप, यू कैन राइट इन दैट वे. एंड देन फाइनली व्हाट कंक्लूजन पार्ट, यू विल गोइंग टू द कंक्लूजन एरिया. यहाँ जो कंक्लूजन है तो कंक्लूजन यही है कि वॉट एवर मे बी द पार्ट, माइनिंग विल ऑलवेज सी, कंक्लूजन यही है कि माइनिंग इज cannot be 100% thing. Mining will always is results into right environmental and ecological impact, environmental, ecological, right, and socio-economic impact. Economic impacts. इसमें एक और चीज आपको याद रखना है ना, जब आप कंक्लूजन लिख रहे हो आप उसको बताओ कि ये चीज आपने बता दिया बॉडी ऑफ द आंसर में कि क्या क्या इम्पैक्ट्स है, क्या क्या हजार्ड्स है, कैसे हेल्थ इम्पैक्ट होगा, ये सब चीज आपने लिख दिया है, लेकिन बस खाली स्टेट करना है कि और इट रिजल्ट्स इनटू दैट. तो व्हाट इट रिक्वायर्स हियर, इट रिक्वायर्स प्रॉपर compliance and strict compliance and strict action for not following the whatever the given actions for violation जो वे फॉरवर्ड होता है, violation of EMP, Environmental Management Plan, for that mining project on that site. If they are not spending the money on the part of greening that area or other kind of technological intervention, the strict compliance should be there, that violation part of it, that you can write here. And again very very important here that we must always think that okay, we require resources, we require minerals, but once we have done with our taking out the minerals, what is the next thing we are going to do that. So when you are writing here, also mention that social impact assessment, SIA, social impacts assessment, that is a SIA also there, and it is done there. See, whenever any kind of project is there, there is not only EIA, environmental impact assessment, but also becomes social impact assessment becomes also very very important. So you write that we also need to take it very strictly about social economic impact of such kind of areas, so that we are able to understand the kind of aspect of things which are required in that kind of part of here, right? So social impact assessment becomes very, very important in this context because people at that area will suffer a lot. That and then I have said that you have to give examples and all. That's very, very important for this one. So now let's move to the last question, question number 18. That is a fifth question in the question paper. Write a review on India's climate commitment. See here, India's climate commitment. India's climate commitments. Very, very important question. Direct question, which one can easily write. Climate commitments under the Paris Agreement, 2015. See, here very clearly given 2015. What do you know? COP21, Conference of Parties 21st. And mention how these have been further strengthened. See here, how it has been further strengthened in COP26, that is the 2021. Conference of Parties 26, Glasgow Summit, Paris Summit COP21, 2015, 2021, that is the COVID time there, Glasgow, UK. So Glasgow Summit, Climate Change Summit. Now in this direction, how high, see, in this direction, how has the first NDC, National Determined Contributions, right, intended, that was called INDC, intended National Determined Contribution, initially when the Paris Agreement was brought forward, 2015, INDC, that became NDC now. So intended by India, been updated, now see very important, updated. After COP26, this one, Glasgow Summit, what is the part of updation done by the government? Again this one answer in 250 words, 15 marks. So what you can do in this question is that, first when you are starting the answer, तो what should be your sentences? आपका सेंटेंस क्या क्या होना चाहिए, क्या क्या आप मेंशन करेंगे? तो पहला चीज इसमें ये बताना है कि दैट ग्लोबल वार्मिंग जो है, राइट, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज, राइट, causing severe harm, causing severe harm. थोड़ा सा इसमें impacts के बारे में सेंटेंस लिख देना, and impacts here like heat wave, sea level rise, right, something, right, tropical cyclone, biodiversity loss, ये सारा चीज है. एंड इसमें ये लिख देना है कि दैट मेंशन अबाउट दिस IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report is warning. What is something called warning? That if the same climate change and the emission of greenhouse gases continue, then if we exceed more than 2 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, that is 21st century, 2100, it will be catastrophic effect. That warning is there. तो यहाँ पर ये लिखना है that part of, then come to this one in your introduction, UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is the 1992. You all know that, you have all studied in the classroom, that 92 Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, when this Agenda 21, that is a Sustainable Development Agenda 21 of Rio Earth Summit, which this landmark agreement, multilateral agreement which was brought there. To just briefly introduce here, because you have 250 words, you can write there. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, brought in 1992 under Agenda 21, is a important convention to deal with all matters with respect to climate change actions, mitigation strategy, and climate finance with technological support, right, under the UN. You can mention about that. And this 1992, when you mention here, उसके बाद क्या करना है, इसको बताना है. फिर इसमें बताना है कि with the expiry of Kyoto Protocol in 2020, now Paris Agreement has been implemented. तो यहाँ लिखना है कि with completion of expiry of Kyoto Protocol, the previous protocol, legally binding agreement which as Annex 1 country. See, here you don't have to explain what is Annex 1, but just simply you have to mention that the Kyoto Protocol, that 1997 protocol which was brought by the government under UNFCCC, right, the protocol in 2020, and what here? Now implementation of Paris Agreement. Implementation of now the new agreement that has taken over the Paris Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement from 2021 to 2030. Right? तो ये आपने इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिया, यू हैव गिवन अ जनरल ओवरव्यू दैट और इसी में लिखना है कि पेरिस, तो ये चीज में बताना है, दिस 3-4 सेंटेंस यू आर राइटिंग देयर, देन व्हाट यू कैन डू देयर, देन इन योर आंसर 250 वर्ड्स है, तो यू विल ब्रिंग अबाउट दिस इन द बॉडी, जब आप जाएंगे बॉडी ऑफ द आंसर, तो क्या क्या मेन पॉइंट्स को रखना है। पहला पॉइंट क्या है, तो बताना है COP 21, कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ पार्टीज 21, पेरिस समिट, क्लाइमेट चेंज समिट 2015, right? This landmark Paris Agreement was brought. अब इसमें पेरिस एग्रीमेंट के बारे में थोड़ा बहुत बता देना है। लैंडमार्क पेरिस एग्रीमेंट was adopted, which got ratified. इसमें थोड़ा सा इसका बैकग्राउंड देना है। Adopted in 2015 and ratified in 2016, just in 1 year. वहाँ लिखोगे आप, एंड उसमें ये लिखना है कि as compared to Kyoto Protocol where it was binding only on Annex 1 countries, but Paris Agreement has a NDC, what is called intended nationally determined contribution. So here, based on, you will write here, based on nationally determined contributions of both developed countries, industrialized countries, that is Annex 1 countries, right, which are industrialized developed countries under the UNFCCC, and also non-Annex 1 countries, that is developing countries, India, China, Brazil, South Africa, they come into non-Annex 1 countries, that is developing countries. So this NDCs. So targets and goals. Targets and goals have been set. और इसी में एक बात और बताना है in your answer, that what is the ultimate aim of the convention? Not let the temperature goes beyond 2 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial level, right, by the end of this century 2100. That is the ultimate goal. But you have to mention that in Paris Agreement COP21, governments agreed to keep at 1.5. It's very very important to keep at 1.5 degrees Celsius. तो आप यहाँ बताएंगे कि that aim is to limit temperature of earth below 2 degrees Celsius based on pre-industrial level. From pre-industrial level, right, from temperature should not be more than industrial level, it should not be more than 2 degrees Celsius. So aim is to limit temperature below 2 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial level. From pre-industrial level, right, by end of this century 2100. But governments will efforts to keep at what temperature? 1.5 degrees Celsius. वो बात को बताना है. At the same time, Paris Agreement का ये भी बताना है COP21 में, International Solar Alliance ISA, which was brought the Solar Alliance, India took that initiative with the France, and it is a headquartered in India. But उतना डिटेल में नहीं जाना है, बस कल मेंशन करना है कि apart from this, other initiative like Mission Innovation, International Solar Alliance, all these are brought in COP21. अब यहाँ पर क्या करना है? अब यहाँ पर जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट जो मैं रखने वाला हूँ, ये जो है NDCs, इंडियाज NDC जो है, एंड देन COP26 पे हम लोग आएंगे. तो उस समय जो है what India's pledge was there, NDC, National Determined Contribution. So you just mention the points here. At that time we decided to now reduce 33% to 35%. है ना, पहला original NDC के बारे में बताना है, right? Based on this intensity, based on 2005 GDP intensity. No, based on 2000 GDP intensity. So how much reduction? The reduction here. Reduction By which year? 2030. This was the first our pledge. We will try to minimize or reduce 30 to 35% of our GDP based intensity, right? By 2030. That was first. Then we decide we place that 40% cumulative power generation from non-fossil fuel, cumulative power generation from where? From non-fossil fuel. वो मेंशन करना है, नॉन फॉसिल फ्यूल, राइट, बेस्ड इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन. तो ये चीज को करना है, बताना है यहाँ पर. सोलर, विंड, वॉट एवर थिंग्स आर देयर, राइट. टुडे थर्मल पावर प्लांट कोल है बेस्ड, बट वी आर नाउ गोइंग टू दैट वन. अब इसमें ये बताना है कि हमारा 450 गीगावाट का टारगेट था रिन्यूएबल पावर से. नॉन फॉसिल फ्यूल में न्यूक्लियर भी आ जाता है, ये याद रखना है. लेकिन जब आप 450 गीगावाट रिन्यूएबल पावर बोल रहे हो तो ये सोलर, विंड, बायोमास, हाइड्रो पावर ये सब आ जाते हैं. रिन्यूएबल पावर बाय 2030, ये भी बाय 2030 था. तो सारा टारगेट 2030 तक का है. देन आप क्या लिखोगे? आप फिर आप लिखोगे यहाँ पर कि 2.5 to 3 बिलियन टन्स कार्बन कैप्चर, carbon dioxide capture from forest and trees, from trees and tree covers, trees and forest, and that what we are trying to increase our forest cover with the more trees and all this forest there, right? And then you know technological thing, green technology promotions and finance, climate finance. Then you know that after that, life, Prime Minister life, lifestyle for environment. Then what comes here after this one? What is called life mission. Prime Minister Sir, life mission was brought. Then we have done many other missions like FAME mission for electric vehicles, right? Promotion of electric vehicles. That India is now trying to do that. All those kind of things there. Lifestyle for environment. ठीक है. फिर क्या करना है? ये सब लिखने के बाद आप आ जाओगे बॉडी ऑफ द आंसर में COP26 पे, ग्लासगो समिट, ग्लासगो क्लाइमेट चेंज समिट. दिस समिट 2021, सम काइंड ऑफ आउटकम्स, उसके बारे में आप लिखेंगे. कुछ इसके आउटकम्स के बारे में बताएंगे, हल्का सा बताएंगे आप. ठीक है. तो इसमें यू विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट दिस वन कि हियर ग्लोबल मीथेन प्लेज वाज देयर. ब्रीफली बताना है उसको. मीथेन प्लेज, इंडिया डिड नॉट जॉइन दिस वन, राइट, वी डिडंट बिकम पार्ट ऑफ. देन यू कैन टॉक अबाउट ग्रीन ग्रीड इनिशिएटिव, ग्रीन ग्रीड इनिशिएटिव, एंड दिस इज वेयर इंडिया हैज प्लेड अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल. इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस got converted into one sun, one world, one grid, and then finally green grid initiative. There's a based on what? The first international solar alliance was there. Then one sun, one world, one grid, and then it got converted into green grid initiative, GGI. है ना. सोलर अलायंस 2015 में हुआ था, ट्रॉपिकल कंट्रीज एंड ऑल. फिर उसको अभी ओपन कर दिया सारे कंट्रीज के लिए. फिर वन सन, वन वर्ल्ड, वन ग्रिड, इंटर कॉन्टिनेंटल रिन्यूएबल पावर ग्रिड, and then it got renamed as green grid initiative. इस पे भी मेंस का क्वेश्चन आ चुका है पहले, है ना. उसके बारे में बताएंगे आप. फिर देन बॉन्ड क्लाइमेट, जो क्लाइमेट हियर इनिशिएटिव इज देयर, राइट, दैट इज प्लेज अगर इनिशिएटिव फॉर फॉरेस्ट्री, प्लांटिंग ऑफ ट्रीज, राइट, कॉर्पोरेट पार्टिसिपेशन इन टर्म्स ऑफ कंट्रोलिंग द एमिशन, इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स काइंड ऑफ प्रोग्राम, क्लीन टेक्नोलॉजी प्रोग्राम, ये सारा है. ब्रीफली बताना है यहाँ पर. एंड देन कम्स हियर इंडियाज रिवाइज्ड एनडीसीज. इसमें एक चीज और लिखना है. COP26 में कंट्रीज हैव डिसाइडेड टू बिकम नेट जीरो बाय 2050. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑल कंट्रीज टुगेदर. दे हैव डिसाइडेड, पर्टिकुलर annex 1 countries कि नेट जीरो बाय 2050. बट इंडिया हैज केप्ट not 2050. India has said 2070, but I'm saying that next one country, other countries, Glasgow summit, they decided to become net zero by 2050, mid of the century. But India insisted on 2070. So now, when you say India's revised NDC, what is something called Panchamrit? आप यहाँ लिखेंगे पंचामृत, 5 पंचामृत, 5 kind of thing. Now this पंचामृत हमने क्या क्या रिवाइज किया? पहला क्या रिवाइज किया? Reduction 30 to 35% was increased to 45%. What we have other 33 to 35% based on GDP intensity of 2005, we have now revised 45%. Right, 45% reduction. The first Panchamrit part based on right our GDP intensity, right. So that we have increased our target here, right, intensity by 2030. Then we have revised this one, that cumulative power 40%, that is there. So again this 40% cumulative power, non-fossil fuel, cumulative power generation, that remained the same from non-fossil fuel. From non-fossil fuel by 2030, right? Then what is the next thing here? Next thing you will write about this one, 500 gigawatt. Now we have been almost half we have achieved now. 500 gigawatt that is a renewable power generation by 2030. Right? Then what is very important here? Same thing, 2.5 billion tons to 3 billion tons carbon capture. Carbon capture, CO2 capture by forest and trees. By forests and tree covers. By 2030. Then here India's net zero. We have going to become net zero by 2070. Although next one countries will do it 2050, mid of the century, but we are going to go for 2070 net zero. What is net zero? Whatever emission balanced by capture. So, and again the PM's life, same thing, that we are continuing with the PM's life mission. And other missions are there, we are continuing with that. So that Panchamrit part you have to know that. So here you will do comparison. Here, if you look at COP21 there, right, in terms of that, and then you have a revised NDC. That's what the question is asking. What Panchamrit we are revising that part of there, right? So that will be your body of answer. 250 words you are writing there. You can easily write because ये सब पढ़ा हुआ है आपका. अगर आपने अच्छे से तैयारी किया है, जिसने मेंस की तैयारी किया है, पढ़ा हुआ ये सब चीज़ मैं क्लास में पढ़ाता हूँ भी हूँ, इन्वायरमेंट क्लास में चर्चा भी होती है, तो आप इजीली लिख सकते हो. जो कुछ भी मैंने क्लास में ऐसे कवर किया है तो वो सारी चीज़ें आते हैं, उस वजह आपको कर सकते हो आप, ठीक है. तो दिस थिंग एंड देन फाइनली व्हाट यू विल डू, कंक्लूजन. यू विल बी गोइंग फॉर कंक्लूजन देयर. तो कंक्लूजन क्या है, व्हाट इज द कंक्लूजन? और ये क्वेश्चन क्यों पूछा गया? क्योंकि रिसेंटली बाकू समिट वाज देयर, अजरबैजान बाकू समिट last year 2024 in November month, right, COP28 there. तो कंक्लूजन क्या लिखना है? कंक्लूजन लिखना है कि इंडिया, राइट, इंडियाज रोल इन फाइटिंग क्लाइमेट चेंज. अब यहाँ कुछ अचीवमेंट बता देना है. क्लाइमेट चेंज इज प्रोग्रेसिंग, यू राइट देयर, इज प्रोग्रेसिंग वेरी वेल, प्रोग्रेसिंग वेल, right, with meeting of, right, with meeting of this target, that's renewable energy targets. 500 gigawatt we have discussed targets, well before time. We are now moving before time there. We well before time. At the same time, you mentioned that for climate finance, India is now working on that, right? और इसमें क्या लिखना है इसमें कि that with revised this one, revised NDCs of India, right? तो पहला progressive very well, meeting of the renewable energy target well before time, will do that one, and also achieving 45% and achieving 45% reduction. ये भी लिखना है 45% reduction. That is a progress there. So again लिखना है revised indices of India, right, is on track, and India, right, and India is demanding right, more climate finance. Here you can give the reference to Baku Climate Change Summit last year, climate finance, because whatever the climate finance Annex 1 countries decided last year, $300 billion per year from 2025 to 2035 will not be sufficient. India has been hammering that we need more and more finance there. So here more climate finance and technology support from Annex 1 countries. Support from Annex 1 countries. ये आप mention कर सकते हो, from Annex 1 countries, which they have to give under the Paris Agreement. So looking into our population, right, 1.4 billion or more than 140 million population, and being a developing country, and again we want to go for 3 trillion, more than 3 trillion economy. So again the emissions are going to grow, but again many programs are there. इसमें आप ये भी लिख सकते हो कि India is running national action plan on climate change. India is running number of programs. आप इसमें ये mention जरूर करना अपने conclusion में, running national action plan on climate change with right missions like solar, wind, right, habitat, sustainable agriculture, right, Himalayan ecosystem. All these वो mention करना खाली बोलना, पर लिखना नहीं है with missions. बस on पहले 8 मिशन था, अब इसमें 4 और ऐड किया तो 12 हो गए. 8 + 4, 12 missions are there. तो solar, wind. Now wind mission has been added there. Earlier 8 missions, wind was not there, but now added wind, habitat, sustainable agriculture. So all these, water, national water mission, Green India mission for forestry, right? All those you can mention that. यहाँ आप बता सकते हैं with different type of programs and policy, different programs like electric vehicles program, such as FAME, आप लिख सकते हो FAME, right, for electric vehicles, right, and policies across different sectors, agriculture, industry, and all this one. With that you can conclude your answer with a positive note. You can conclude that. तो ये क्वेश्चन बहुत डायरेक्ट है और सिंपल है, कोई भी अच्छे से लिख सकता है, उसमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी इसके आंसर को लिखने के लिए. तो दैट्स व्हाट आई हैव डन ऑल द 5 क्वेश्चंस. आई हैव गिवन यू द मॉडल आंसर इन दैट वे कि हाउ यू कैन गो अहेड विद दैट. सो नाउ व्हाट ट्रेंड इज दैट from 3 to 4 and now 5 questions. So my dear students, environment topic weightage not only in prelims exam but also mains exam it is increasing. अब आप देखो कि जिस तरह के क्वेश्चन पूछे जा रहे हैं, सिंपल क्वेश्चंस हैं, इजी टू राइट है, नॉर्मल अंडरस्टैंडिंग पे है, लेकिन हाँ जब आप आंसर लिखते हैं तो बेटर कीवर्ड यूज करना है, उसमें सब्जेक्ट नॉलेज रिफ्लेक्ट होना चाहिए, वो दिखना चाहिए एग्जामिनर को कि यू नो द सब्जेक्ट ऑफ environment ecology when you write a question on the mining of minerals or groundwater depletion or let's say intrusion of seawater in coastal aquifers or even the climate change impact and the NDC part, ये सब दिखना चाहिए कि you know the technical things. हाँ, but these are straight forward direct question. और तीसरी बहुत बड़ी बात क्या है कि suggestions देना है, solution देना है, remedial measures की बात की जा रही है, तो आपको remedies देना बहुत जरूरी हो गया. तो कंपेयर टू प्रीलिम्स और मेंस की हम बात करें तो प्रीलिम क्वेश्चन इसलिए डिफिकल्ट होता है कि कहीं से कुछ भी क्वेश्चन करंट अफेयर से आ सकता है और सब्जेक्ट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं. मेंस का स्पेसिफिक है, अगर आपने अच्छे से करंट अफेयर्स पढ़ा है, अच्छे तरीके है, इन्वायरमेंट क्वेश्चन इज विद इन योर रीच एंड यू कैन इजिली राइट द आंसर. तो 3 क्वेश्चन यू सी 150 वर्ड्स, 10 मार्क्स, 30 मार्क्स, एंड 2 क्वेश्चन 250 वर्ड्स, मतलब 15 30 मार्क्स। तो आप देखो कि 60 to 70 मार्क्स का वेटेज जो है इन्वायरमेंट ले रहा है, राइट। और इस बार क्या हुआ, डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का क्वेश्चन ही नहीं है, देयर इज नो क्वेश्चन ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, राइट। इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि अगले बार डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का क्वेश्चन नहीं आएगा। UPSC can ask you disaster management question there. This time, always UPSC keeps on giving you surprise. So this is a surprise that this time disaster management is absent. But though there were so many disasters over the last 1 year, flash flood, Uttarkashi flash flood, and other kind of areas though है, and urban flood or earthquake was there in central Myanmar and all. लेकिन पूछा ही नहीं। हाँ, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि अगले साल नहीं आ सकता है, तो आपको तैयारी रखना है। हाँ, बट इन्वायरमेंट का जो वेटेज बढ़ाया है, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है। So for learning all this, our GS batch is going on. Our GS foundation batch is there, and the new batch is going to start in coming time. So you can inquire to our academy, SRIS, Shubhra Ranjan IS Academy, and you can join the batch to prepare yourself to the best level to not only crack UPSC prelims exam but also mains exam. So I wish you all the best. Keep in touch. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.